What's up, guys, and welcome to my top 10 favorite movies of 2017. It's always exciting to make these lists at the end of the year, and this year was no different. And there was a lot of great films that came out this year that I saw. So I have at least 7 honorable mentions, and they are Logan, Get Out, Wonder Woman, War for the Planet of the Apes, Annabelle Creation, Wind River, and Lady Bird. Now just keep in mind before I actually start getting into my top 10, if you do watch my reviews on a regular basis, some of these films that I have at 4.5 out of 5 might be, lower on the list, and some of the films that I made at 5 out of 5 or higher on the list or lower, or whatever the case may be, it might be jumbled up a bit. So just, it's just the films that, stuck with me the most. I mean, sure, a film could be 5 out of 5, but it goes off of rewatchability, movies that stick with me, movies that I just loved. And keep in mind also that my opinion is subjective, so some of these picks might, you might disagree with, but, this is my top 10 list, and if you do disagree, you can comment in the comment section at the end of the video, and you could tell me what your top 10 is, or top 5. And you could tell me why. We could have a conversation about it. So, let's get started. My 10th favorite film of 2017 is...
For without victory, there can be no survival.
Darkest Hour is a movie that I just saw recently. I just posted my review for it just days ago. And it really is a great film. As I said in my review, it reminds me of The King's Speech. It has a very similar tone and feel. And Gary Oldman's performance as Winston Churchill, my personal pick to win Best Lead Actor. I did not see a performance better than his this year. He sunk into the role. Half the film I'm just watching this character, this guy, this Winston Churchill. And I'm not even thinking about Gary Oldman. That's how fantastic he is in this movie. And it's just a great film in general. I mean, I really ended up liking it a lot more than I thought I would. So, moving on to my 9th favorite movie of 2017.
You can practically see it from here.
What?
Home.
And Dunkirk shows us what Darkest Hour talked about. This is actually, we are on the battlegrounds, we are in the sky, we are in the water, and Christopher Nolan's movie is absolutely phenomenal. From beginning to end, right when that Hans Zimmer music starts, it is relentless. And he keeps you on the edge of your seat. This movie has a great score, which is definitely going to get nominated for Best Original Score at the Oscars. And Nolan's direction, and just the intensity that the film keeps for the whole entire runtime. And you're always on the edge of your seat. And the practical effects, the way it's shot, everything about this movie is so compelling and so powerful. And that leads it to be the 9th best movie of 2017. Now, moving on to number 8. Here's where some of you might start disagreeing, but Thor Ragnarok for me was, one of the funnest times I've had in the theater this year. It's one of the funniest movies of the year. The action is great. The dynamic between Bruce Banner and Thor is incredible. I thought Cate Blanchett's villain was fine. I thought she was pretty good. Loki, all these characters that we love in this movie. We get introduced to Valkyrie, Jeff Goldblum's character. We see the Hulk again. A lot of this stuff, the movie just flies by for me. We get Taika Waititi's wonderful direction and his wonderful character Korg, who really, could have been annoying, but he works so well. And this movie is just great. It's such a fun time to watch, and it flies by. So, that's why it's at number 8. Moving on to number 7.
What is she saying?
She is saying thank you.
The Shape of Water is another movie that I just saw recently, and it is absolutely incredible. It's a fairy tale for adults. You know, it's an R-rated fairy tale, and it's such a beautiful story, but it's so different at the same time. But Guillermo del Toro's direction, and you know, he co-wrote the screenplay, he just made it work. He knew the story he wanted to tell, and he did it in such a beautiful way. You know, Michael, oh my God, his name is... It's escaping me. That's crazy. The guy that's in Michael Shannon. That's crazy. I couldn't think of his name. He's fantastic in this movie. Octavia Spencer, I think, should be nominated for Best Supporting Actress, and I think Sally Hawkins should get in for Best Lead Actor. The score is great in this movie. It's probably going to get nominated. You know, the makeup and hairstyling, I hope we'll see. But you know, the way it's shot, everything about this movie is great. Guillermo del Toro's The Shape of Water is the 7th best movie of 2017. And moving in to number 6.
What are you hiding, Peter? I'm just kidding, I don't care. Bye.
Yes, I have yet another Marvel movie in this list, but it is a really deserving. SpiderMan Homecoming, I think, is the best Marvel movie they put out this year. Slightly better than Thor Ragnarok. I love them both. You know, I really like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 as well, but it doesn't stand close to how just great and fast-paced and intense Spider-Man Homecoming is. I mean, just the last, like, 20-30 minutes of the movie, when you think things are going to go so well, and all of a sudden there's that twist, and it's fantastic, and it just makes you just sit there and you're in silence and you're like, wow, I can't believe this is happening. But I love every second of it. There's a great car scene that happens after that where they're in the car. Peter Parker's in the car with Batman. What's his name? Michael Keaton. Why am I so bad with names today? It's just a great scene. It's a great movie. And I loved it. And I watch it occasionally. I own it. So yeah, Spider-Man Homecoming is number 6. Moving on to number 5. Now, I haven't seen this movie in anyone's top 10 list so far, and I'm not entirely sure why, because Beauty and the Beast, to me, it's a great movie. I mean, I'm sure, you know, I know it takes a lot from the animated film, but it also adds on to it. It completely changes the character of Maurice, which I really liked, the more sophisticated version. And I loved the new take on LeFou that Josh Gad had, and his kind of character is not completely on Gaston's side the whole entire time. He's kind of has to make a decision. You know, he has a bit of an arc in the movie, and I loved it. I thought Emma Watson was great. I thought Dan Stevens was great. Luke Evans is great, and I always love hearing Alan Menken's music. He is one of my favorite composers of all time, and you know, his music in this movie is no exception. I hope to God that Evermore gets nominated for Best Original Song and wins, because that is my favorite song of the year. I love it. It's one of my favorite songs that Menken has ever done, and Tim Rice was the lyricist. I loved it, and I just love the movie. I mean, it plays on nostalgia, sure, but it's not a bad film. It's a great film, and I loved it, and that's why it's number 5 on my list. Okay, guys, moving on to my 4th favorite movie of 2017. It was a movie that I had no idea what I was going to think going into it. I really was into the trailers, but I watched that 3-hour miniseries or whatever, and I'm thinking, oh God, I don't know how this is going to go, and they just focused the story on the kids. This is like the Goonies, but an R-rated version. These kids have fantastic chemistry. The movie is funny when it needs to be. It's heartfelt when it needs to be. The music is great. The score is great. The pacing is great. This is a 2-hour-plus movie and it flies by. I don't think there's a scene in this movie that drags. Everything about this movie I love. Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise is fantastic. in this movie. What an incredible performance that is. This movie is great. I loved it. It comes on Blu-ray, I believe, the 9th of January. So if you're interested in a digital copy code, check out my Blu-ray unboxing for it on January 9th. Okay, guys, here we go. We've moved on to the top 3. My third favorite movie of 2017 is...
I do this whole movie for you, Greg.
It's The Disaster Artist, which is a movie that I was extremely excited to see once I saw the trailers, even though I hadn't seen The Room when I first saw the trailers, but like a few days before I saw this movie, I watched The Room, which this is based on, you know, the making of The Room, and how Tommy Wiseau met Greg Sestero, and how they were able to, you know, go into Hollywood, and you know, how Tommy Wiseau was able to create this story with such great lines of dialogue, which aren't supposed to be funny, but it is funny, and I love funny things, and I love watching The Room because it's hilarious, and I love watching The Disaster Artist because it's hilarious in a different way. This movie has heart, this movie is funny, this movie, it's not that long, it's only, what, an hour and a half or something? It flies by, it's great, it's incredible, and it's just a great story, and I loved... you know, Franco's performance as Tommy Wiseau. I think he should be nominated for Best Lead Actor, one of the best performances of the year. I even like his brother as Greg Sestero in the movie. He's great. You know, everything about The Disaster Artist I loved. An incredible film it is. Okay, guys, now 2 and 1. It was very difficult for me to rank them this way, but there's just some things in my number 2 movie that it's, you know, I had to put into consideration. So, without further ado, my second favorite film of 2017 is... That's right, it's Star Wars: The Last Jedi. This movie is incredible, for me anyway. I know there's so much controversy about this movie. It's got like split ratings on Rotten Tomatoes. Audience score is so much lower than the fan score. I think it's like 52% now at an audience score, which is the lowest rated Star Wars live action film ever. And that's very surprising to me because this film is light years better than Attack of the Clones, light years better than The Phantom Menace. And Rian Johnson did a fantastic job coming in and continuing the story. I mean, everything with Luke Skywalker and Rey, I loved. Mark Hamill gives the best performance of his career. I've seen this movie 5 times in the theater, and it is incredible. I mean, the score by John Williams, I love. I listened to it. You know, it took a little while. It was like a slow burn for me to actually, you know, really appreciate the score and love it. The first time I saw the movie, I don't know how I felt about it. But then I saw the movie again and again and again. I bought the score. I listened to it. And some of this music is absolutely incredible. Some of the best cues John Williams has ever done for a Star Wars movie. That first track, main title and escape, there was so much great stuff going on in that track. It's incredible. We get some great themes in this as well. And this movie, I loved it. The only reason why it's at number 2 is because of the, you know, without any spoilers, there's a place that Finn and Rose go in the movie, and there's a person they meet, and it literally just takes them to a place where things go south anyway. So it was like, why did this, you know, even... It was just like a big chunk of the movie that didn't need to be there, I felt. But the rest of it is so good. Like, the rest of the movie is absolutely phenomenal. There is stuff in this movie with Kylo Ren that is great. There are some of the best Star Wars moments in this movie. There's a couple of the best moments ever put to film in Star Wars I've ever seen. And that's why this movie's at number 2. It's my third favorite Star Wars film, under Empire Strikes Back, and then A New Hope, and then The Last Jedi. And then, let's see, then The Force Awakens, and then Return of the Jedi, and then Revenge of the Sith, Rogue One, The Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones. there you go. I gave you my rankings for the Star Wars films. And then the animated Clone Wars film would be at the bottom at number 10. But there you go. And if you guys hadn't already guessed my favorite movie of 2017, you're about to find out.
Doesn't have any hair.
And I don't have a nose, and yet here we are.
Disney Pixar's Coco is the best movie of 2017. There is not a single frame in this movie, there is not a single scene in this movie that is misplaced. Every single scene adds to the overall story in such an innovative, creative, and original way. And I was into it from beginning to end. Right when this movie started, it had me until the last shot of the movie, which, like, the last sequence of the movie, the last little thing that happens before it cuts to end credits. It's beautiful. It's emotional. And it chokes me up every time I see it. The end of this movie, the last 5-10 minutes of this movie, whatever it is the most emotional stuff Pixar has ever done. And this movie has great characters, it has a great story, it has great writing, it's always keeping you in suspense what's going to happen, and the storytelling, and it's so original. Everything about Coco works for me. Michael Giacchino's music, the song Remember Me, everything about this film. Like I said, there is not one single scene in this movie for me that feels misplaced. Everything works for me, and I can't wait to see it again. And that, guys, is my top 10 favorite movies of 2017. What did you think about my list? Am I missing things? What did you think? Comment in the comment section. Tell me what you think of my list. What is your list? What are some of your favorite movies of the year? You could also subscribe to this channel, because tomorrow I'll be posting my top 10 worst favorite movies of, well, that actually doesn't make sense. My least favorite movies. Yeah, I guess that does make sense. Of 2017. And I'm constructing the list now. And it's you know, there's a lot of crap in there. So let's enjoy the good ones and talk about the bad ones tomorrow. So you can check that out. Like I said, Tuesday, January 9th, I'll be posting my Blu-ray unboxing for It. We'll be giving away a chance to win the digital HD code, or this is the digital code now. So you can check that out. And I also want to give a shout out to Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Men Tell No Tales. I mean, it's not an honorable mention, it's not in my top 10, but I love the series so much, and I think there's a lot of great stuff in that movie. You know, I really, really like it, but I can acknowledge that it's not better than any of these movies. There's a significant plot error in that movie, like a plot hole in that movie, something they set up in the second movie that's in this movie, and that's changed, and the mythology's changed, which is kind of upsetting and confusing. But the last 5 minutes alone might be the most satisfying ending all year in Pirates 5. For me, anyway, just with the music. I know Hans Zimmer didn't score it, but you get that Hans Zimmer music at the end, that beautiful song. I don't want to give too much away if you haven't seen it, but I just wanted to put that out there. That movie, I wanted to give it a shout out. So, guys, that's it. Thank you very much for watching my top 10 movies, favorite movies of 2017. Over and out.